Hello everyone. Today I am going to discuss about Spring Boot and how we are going to run these particular applications. Okay, so we will create one application, Spring Boot applications, and also I will demonstrate how we are going to run these particular applications. Okay, so as you know, using the Spring Boot applications, we can create the microservices or any batch. So it's a very useful tool or useful things so that we can easily develop those microservices. So before going to the detailed discussions about the Spring Boot, let's talk about the microservices. So as we know, the microservice is an architecture that allows to develop and deploy services independently. Each microservice can run its own process, and this is a lightweight model to support business applications. So obviously, after developing means where we are going to develop these microservices, right? So obviously it's having a advantages, few of the advantages. So we are going to discuss some of the advantages of microservices. So first, we can deploy this microservice easily. Also it's compatible with container. The second advantage of this one, based on the load or based on the need, we can easily scale the applications. So for example, that particular any applications which is basically developed as a microservice, and we are getting load in a weekend, maybe Saturday or Sunday, the more load is coming. So what we will do, we will increase the load in a particular day, or maybe in a some duration wise also we can do. Maybe this particular time the load is increased daily, so in that same time we can increase the load of that particular microservices. That also we can do. So these are things also we can easily scale, as it's a very lightweight process and it's a standalone kind of thing. And the third one is the it's required minimum configurations for creating the project. As you know, before this is Spring Boot application, actually we need to create lot of configurations for readiness of anything, right? This kind of microservices. But now we need the minimum kind of the configurations for this creating the project. And also similar kind of in similar fashion, for production readiness, it's required less time. Okay. Next, I will discuss about what topic actually basically I'm gonna cover for discussing the Spring Boot. Okay, so let's check this one. So this is the basically list or topic you can say that I'm going to cover over here in this tutorial. So first point is to what is Spring Boot. Next, we'll discuss why basically we are going to use this Spring Boot, right? Next, how does this work? Okay. Next, we will talk about the different types of Spring Boot starter. Then auto configurations, Spring Boot applications we are going to create. Then components can't write the REST endpoint, and then in the last we are going to start the applications. So let's talk about what is Spring Boot actually. Okay. So Spring Boot provides a good platform for developing a standalone Spring applications that we just run. We can get started with minimum configurations without need for an entire Spring configuration setup. So obviously the Spring Boot, why we are going to use this one? So obviously it's having some kind of advantages. So advantages wise, if we are trying to learn this one Spring Boot, then the learning curve is very easy. Means we can easily run Spring Boot and we can create the applications using the Spring Boot applications. So that is very easy. Also we can easily develop the application using the Spring Boot. So this is a very easy curve. Learning curve is very easy. It will increase the productivity and reduce the development time. And as you know, previously in any Spring MVC applications, we need to create lots more complex XML configurations. So that we can easily avoid in the Spring Boot applications. Okay, it will reduce the development time and it will also run the application independently. Okay, we can start this Spring Boot applications very easily. Next, we'll talk about why we are going to use the Spring Boot. So Spring Boot also having a lot of features and benefits. For example, it provides a flexible way to configure Java beans, XML configurations, and database transactions. Using Spring Boot, we can create powerful batch processing and manage the REST point. Means using the Spring Boot, we can easily create the Spring Boot batch, which we can easily create, and also we can create the REST endpoint so that we can configure those things, and so that it will be called from some outside. Okay. In Spring Boot, everything is auto configured. No manual configurations are needed. It's a more or less annotation based Spring application basically. Easy dependency, we can easily like manage the dependencies in a Spring Boot applications. It also included our embedded server, Tomcat server, so that we don't need any external server to run the particular application. Okay. Next we'll talk about like how does this work actually. So Spring Boot actually automatically configure the applications based on the dependencies that we have added into our project. Okay, so whatever the dependencies we have added into our like class path, we can say, then it will automatically adding all those things into the project. We don't need to do anything. Only what we need to do, we need to just add one annotations, which is the enable auto configuration annotation. Next, like if we talk about if we need the configurations of any database actually, okay, but we have not defining any string, connection string and all those things into our properties file, then it will automatically auto configure the in-memory database. Okay, so that's how actually it will auto configure all the things. Okay, mean we just need to define those things in the class path so that it will automatically pick those dependencies and it will do all kind of things so that it will give us all the ready-made project, entire prototype kind of project it will give us. The entry point of the Spring Boot application is class should be annotated with this Spring Boot application annotations and the main method actually, so that it will taken care all those things. Spring Boot automatically also scans all the components, include the @components scan, there is annotations over there. Okay, so this is kind of like internally this Spring Boot basically work. Okay, if you guys need any doubt or anything, please let me know in the comment section. Obviously you guys can like definitely guys put some comment in the comment. Okay, next I will talk about what are the different types of Spring Boot starter. What is it? So basically this starter actually for managing the dependencies is very difficult, right, for a big project. So Spring Boot actually resolve those dependencies, and that's why it's provided lots of like set of dependencies, we can say. So for example, if we are going to use the security related jars, then there is one starter available. Like we need to use this Spring Boot starter. If we are going to some kind of use some JPA related things, database related things actually, then we need to use the Spring Boot starter JPA dependency, like as we use for over here. As you can see, Spring Boot starter security, similar kind of things we need to use like Spring Boot starter JPA. If we need kind of this starter web, then the pattern is to be like something like this. As you can see, the pattern is similar kind of thing, only the last portion is different, right? Like the security, then web, then test, but the previous like this one Spring Boot starter is a fixed one. Okay, so this is a kind of we can define, and Spring Boot provide starter, lots of starter is there, so that actually we are going to use like star security, web, Spring Boot data JPA, Spring Boot starter, some other things also there. In a real project we are using lots of things actually, so that we are going to use. So it will actually means give us lots of flexibility. We just need to add those kind of starter and it will basically taken care of all the things. We don't need to manually mention anything, it will automatically taken all the related jars into the class path. So this is the beauty of this Spring Boot projects. Next we will talk about the auto configurations. So auto configurations, Spring Boot auto configurations automatically configure Spring application based on the jar which actually we need to add into our project. So for example, as we are talking in the last slide, as I was talking that if we are going to use this MySQL database but it's not available into our like class path, then it will automatically configure the in-memory database. So for achieving this one, we just need to use this enable auto configurations annotations, or we need to use this Spring Boot applications, as you can see over here. Okay, so this particular annotation is actually, if we use this one, so it will actually automatically taken care of all those things. Spring Boot applications actually it's include all the things like enable auto configurations, component scan, and Spring Boot configurations. So like we don't need to manually add this enable auto configuration, it's already included in this annotations. Okay, once I will write the code, I'll show you how it is working. Okay, So Spring Boot application scan all the beans and packages declarations within when the application is initialized. We need to add the component scan annotation for the class like which is basically used to component scan all the dependencies, and basically it's included over here. So that's why we don't need to add manually all those things. So this is the auto configuration basically work in this manner. So it will actually check all those dependencies in the class path, and then accordingly it will work. Next we will talk about like if we are going to want to develop some applications, Spring Boot application, what are the like prerequisite dependencies needed. So here I mentioned Java 17, Spring Boot 3, then either Maven or Gradle, and then one IDE or text. IDE meaning like Eclipse or STS or IntelliJ. So why I mentioned Java 17 and Spring Boot 3? So if we are going to use this Spring Boot 3, then minimum version of Java is 17 is required. So if we are using like Spring Boot less than 3, then Java 8 is 8 also work. So that will work actually. So there is a based on the what version you are going to use, based on this you can choose this one. An ID like you can use whatever you like, that also you can use. And latest version Maven or Gradle if you are going to use, so that easily compatible with this one. Okay, next we'll talk about like as once we are going to create the any Spring Boot applications, so that particular applications we can easily create from the Spring Boot initializer. So over there we just need to provide the dependencies and the artifact name and all those things. So I'll show you like how it is look like once we will create the project. Then we need to just download this one, and as a import as a Maven or Gradle we need to import this project. So after that we are going to write the any REST endpoint so that we can check from the like Postman that like this particular application it is working fine or not. So what we are going to do, first we are going to the create the Spring Boot project, then we are going to create one like controller using the REST controller annotation. Then we need to provide the mapping for this particular controller with at the request mapping annotation. And the next we need to write the APIs like what kind of API it is, like it's a get, put, post or put or delete. Basically for fetching the data we are going to use the get, and for like insertion kind of thing, new insertion, we are going to use the post. For updating the records, if we are going to, if there is some need is like something like that, if we are going to update something, then we are going to use the put. And obviously if we are going to delete some resource, then delete API is needed. So this is the overall things and the about like basic idea about like Spring Boot, how we are going to use this one. Next what we will do, we'll create one applications, and I will show you how we are going to create this project from the Spring initializer, and how to import this project, and how we are going to start this project, means how it is working as an internal Tomcat server, and how to run those things as a jar we are going to run so that it will start and it will give us all the things, and how to call those things from the Postman. So this is overall things for this one. Now let's like check this one, like how we are going to create the project and how to run those things in any editor. So for me I am using the Eclipse editor, so let's check this one. Okay, so as I was saying, for creating the any Spring Boot project, so there is a already Spring provider site like this is Spring Boot initializer. So if you open this site, then it will provide us lots of options. That like first of all, what is the language that you are going to create your project? It's a Java, Groovy or Kotlin. And then once you choose this one, so for me it's a Java language, then what kind of as a dependency management tool you are using, Gradle, Kotlin or Maven. So as a Maven I am using, you can also either use the Gradle also. Next we need to choose the means version of the Spring Boot, that what version we are going to use for creating this particular project. So this version also I can use, also this one I can use, whatever means we need to choose, so that we can define from here. So for me either you can use this 3.1.3 as this is not a snapshot kind of thing, so that is the long means this is the release that we can use, or these are the 3.2 is the latest release. There's also we can use this new release also having some extra features that we can easily use like JDBC template, and the REST client, that are the new features that already I've created two videos related to that. So I'll share those link in the description section. But for the time being, as I'm showing the how you're going to create, so for that I'm using this version. Next, here actually you're going to create the metadata details, like what kind of the group, then artifact name, description, so that we can also choose over here, or you can define over here. Next, we need to like what kind of the packaging, like it is a jar or it is a war, those also we need to define over here. So for the timing we are keeping as a jar. Then what kind of the Java version we are going to use, okay, either 20 or 17. So for Spring Boot 3 the minimum version is 17, so that's we need to choose, okay, 17. Here actually we need to add the dependencies. So like if we remove this one, so here actually we need to just search like Spring Web, that we are going to use. Then maybe if you're going to dev tools, that also we just need to choose. Means we need to just define like what are the dependencies that we are going to need, basically like Lombok, what are the needs for this dependency into our project. So once we created this one and once we will generate this one, then it will create the project for us, demo project for us, and that particular project we just need to use, basically import into our project. So I have already already one project like this one, demo kind of thing, and this actually we are going to import over here. So once we generate, so it will download that thing, and then we need to just extract this one, and then extraction we need to import over here. So how we are going to import, like here is a after right click over here, you will get one option as import. From the file also you will get one options like import. So over here then you need to choose this option, existing Maven project, okay. So if we choose this one, then from the download sections we need to select this one, okay. Then it will means it will select this one, and then we just need to select as a finish. So once we will finish this one, then it will actually load this one. As you can see in the below, importing Maven project 9% 70. So it will actually import all the things, and it will also like downloaded all the jars whatever we have defined in the class path, so those it will download it. So now this is project is ready. If you see, it can downloaded all the jars over here, okay. So these things automatically taken care by this Spring Boot. Actually we don't need to what we mention actually in the POM file, basically we just mention dependencies, what are the dependencies we need. As you can see, this starter web and this is coming as a default. So these are the dependencies we need to define over here. Spring. Now if we need to add some other dependencies, so that also we can add over here, we can modify over here. Spring Boot starter like JPA, it's not yeah, it's coming, right? So if we click this one, then it will also add this one, okay. So if we need to save this one, then it will actually basically download all the things. You can see over here starter JPA, it will also downloaded all the things for starter data JPA, okay. If you see over here data JPA, this is also available over here. So using this also you can add, means if we need to add another dependencies, for example Spring Boot starter, Spring Boot starter, for example actuator. So this actuator basically using for the observability and like monitoring kind of tool. So if we add this one, then it will also taken care all the dependencies over here. So it's very easy basically, okay. So this is a very easy, like we can add. So for the timing we don't need this one, so I am just removing those things because unnecessary. We don't need to add any dependencies, so that it will be looks very clean, the form file. Next what we are going to do, okay, so before going anything, so if we check this here, like is annotated with this Spring Boot application. So as I was mentioning, this particular annotation combination of this configurations, enable auto configurations, component scan, so these are already like included in this particular Spring Boot application annotation. So that's why we don't need to manually mention all the other other configurations. So for running this one, we just need to run as a Spring Java application. So as you can see, right click, then run as Java application, so that it will start the application. So as you can see over here, it will start, means Tomcat embedded Tomcat over there, Tomcat server. So it will Tomcat server started on the 8080 port. Okay. So as you can see, we can easily start these Spring Boot applications. Now suppose for demonstrating one, if we are going to create any controller class, so for example dummy controller, okay, controller. If you are going to create any controller, so how we are going to create? First we need to create one class, and then we need to annotate this class with REST controller. Okay, we need to annotate this one REST controller. Next, if you check this on REST controller, it's a combination of the controller and the response body. That means if we are adding this one, then manually we don't need to mention response body in a particular API. It is already taken care for this one. So that's why we are going to use this REST controller. Okay. Previously means we can also use the controller over here instead of this REST controller, but here we are going to use this REST controller because it's a combination of controller and response body. Okay, I hope it's clear, but still if you guys have anything, please do let me know in the comment section. Next, we are going to create some like one API. Okay, so how we are going to create the API? So for example, we need to like do something like public void, then for example get data. Okay, it's a get request. So for defining the get request, actually we need to define as a get mapping. Okay, get mapping, and here basically we need to define any path, for example get data. Okay, and here also we need to define the path, like for the request mapping. So initially it will coming over here, and then it will like for example, then it will check this one. Okay, so initially it will check this one. So what is the purpose? If you see, it's a kind of mapping, and it is the annotation request mapping. So this actually we're defining so that it will come over here. So like how the path will be defining. So initially like this Tomcat will started in the 8080 port. So for example, like we need to define this HTTP / localhost, then 8080 it started, then /API, then /get data. Okay, so it will, so for example it will return some data like welcome. Okay, welcome, and we just need to return type as string. So once we'll call this API, then it will actually basically return us this string. Okay, so let's if we run this one, then it will start this one, and from the postman we can get this data. Okay, okay, if we run this one, let's run this one from here, like run as Java application. It will start very easily in a short time. It will not take more time. Started. Now try to call this particular get API. So localhost 8080 /API /get data. Okay, we are getting the 200 as success, and in the response we are getting the welcome. This particular string we have written from our controller, right? This one. So that means, as you can see, we can easily create one REST controller, and it's also like deployed over here, and then easily like we can start this one. Okay, now like as we are running these applications from here also, so we can also like run the applications from the command prompt, like from the particular folder we need to come over here, and then we need to run this one command like mbn. As we are using I'm using the Maven, so for that Maven clean install. Okay, if we run this one, then it will automatically create one jar in the target folder. I'll show you, and also it will run the test cases. Okay, so it will generate the jar file into the target folder, and then we can run this Java jar file actually. If you guys are using the Gradle, then for that also command is available, like Gradle. For that there is something like Gradle clean install something. Okay, so then we need to go over here in the target. If we see the directory, then you can see there is a one jar is created like this one, demo, this snapshot jar. Now actually basically we need to run this one, java minus jar, then this particular jar file. So if we run this one, then it will start the application in a 8080 folder. Okay, you can see this is started now, right, in a 8080 port. Now if we again hit this one, so we'll get the same response, 200 and welcome. So from the cmd command prompt also we can easily run. Okay, so this is way actually we can create the applications, and we can run from the eclipse, as well as from the we can build from the command prompt, and we can from the run over here also. So for Gradle actually basically we can use the command Gradle build, like this also work for the Gradle. As I'm using the Maven, so the Maven, like I'm using the ambient clean install. Okay, so this is actually like this way we can create the project, Spring Boot project. As you can see over here, this is a very easy actually. So using this we can easily create some other mapping also, like similar kind of thing using the gate mapping. So for the post basically we need to, instead of gate, we need to use like post mapping, similar this post mapping, and we need to define the path over here, and obviously we need to comment this one. For the like delete, we need to have this delete mapping. For the like put mapping, we are having this put mapping. So all these things we can easily like create those APIs from here, and we can easily access from the postman, or from any external services we can create those things. So this is a very easy. I hope it's clear to you all. If you guys have anything, please do let me know in the comment section. Okay, I hope it's clear. And that's all about this like Spring Boot, the basic idea, how we are going to like the basic concept about the Spring Boot applications, like how it is working, why we are going to use the Spring Boot, how we are going to need REST controller, and how we are defining the APIs. So this is the briefly introductions of these Spring Boot applications. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye bye.